welcome everybody. It's such a beautiful day that I thought people might want to be outside, and it's nice that you've taken time to join us. We have two amazing women with us that are people that you're going to be blown away by once you've seen this session with us. I'd like to start by acknowledging that I live and work on the traditional unceded territory of the Silks Okanagan people. We in the Green Party recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community, and we respect their elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the important role that Indigenous people continue to play within the Okanagan community. So welcome everyone. I'm going to turn this session over to Mackenzie and Lilah. They're two women that you're going to really enjoy, and I'll let Mackenzie start. Thank you.
Sure, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for being here. So just a quick housekeeping right off the bat. If you're not speaking, if you could mute, then we won't have any noise in the background and it'll be super easy for just sound. So my name is Mackenzie Kerr. Thank you so much for being here. I'm here with Lyla Williamson, and I am on the traditional unceded territory of the Lheidli in Prince George, British Columbia. And we are excited to talk about youth, politics, activism, how you can get involved. Our main audience that we're hoping to chat to today, everyone is welcome, obviously, but our main goal was to get youth involved in politics and chat with young members that haven't been experienced with activism before and want to know where to start. So we see that we have some guests that are from EDAs because emails were sent across EDAs as well. So you are completely welcome to participate in all the polls that we have and everything going on, and you can use what we say today to reach out to youth in your area, and hopefully that is helpful. So I will let Lyla introduce herself and then we can kind of go over what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Mackenzie, and thank you so much to Heather and your whole team for organizing today. I'm super excited. So yeah, my name's Lilah. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here on unceded Musqueam, which is in Squamish territory, also known as Vancouver, so in the lower mainland, not in the Okanagan, but have done a lot of climate activism and politics work and stuff like that. And so we're really excited to have all these conversations today. So I'll just go to the quick run through of kind of what we're going to be going over in today's little workshop presentation. So we'll be talking a little bit about our stories. Both Mackenzie and I have kind of worked together, but also have like very different ways of like approaching climate activism. And then what we've learned from that, how to take action, and then just a Q&A at the end. And we've got some like interactive activities and stuff in there as well. So we'll just start with a quick little poll just to get everyone moving, get to know kind of who we have in the room today with a very, very important question, which is your favorite ice cream flavor. So Heather, or maybe Mackenzie, if you want to launch that poll, just so I'm doing the screen sharing, then everyone should be able to pick one option. What's your favorite ice cream flavor? And then we'll see who we've got in the room today.
There we go. So it's just started. So if you're on your computer, the little button is at the bottom and it says polling. And I'm not sure if it pops up for you or if you have to click it, but then you can vote on there.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Almost everyone has voted. We'll give everyone a few more seconds. Okay, just waiting for 2 more people.
Oh, we have another guest. I will admit them.
Okay. All right, I think we can end the poll now. All right.
Sure.
On the poll. Okay, let's share results. Okay, so we have clear winner, which is chocolate ice cream. I support that. I'm personally a vanilla ice cream person. I think it's really underrated, but chocolate ice cream is good too. All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much everyone for joining us today. We're super excited, and yeah, I think we can get right into it. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about our stories, I guess. Mackenzie, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I can definitely start. So welcome to those that just joined. We're here today to talk about youth politics. We still have people joining, which is exciting, and activism and how to get engaged. And if you are not a young person yourself, but you are young at heart, welcome. And you can hopefully use what we share today with young people in your area to get more young people involved in the Green Party. So my name is Mackenzie. I have ran twice. I ran in the one more person. I have ran in the federal 2019 election as the Green Party candidate for Prince George Caribou. And then I ran last year in the 2019 SNAP election provincially in British Columbia in the Prince George Valemont riding. And both of those have been conservative for a very long time. And I was running against incumbent Shirley Bond the second time provincially, and she's had the seat for going on 20 years now. And so I definitely have learned a lot from running in both of those elections in a very short amount of time. There was some differences between the federal and the provincial election. Most of it was just based around how much time we had to do things. And that came down to like how many people we could reach out to. We had COVID-19 during the second election, so we couldn't have events. I personally didn't door knock, even though some campaigns did. But we really leaned on social media because that was the biggest way that we could reach people. We paid for Facebook ads and, you know, targeted them to people that we wanted them to see. I did a little bit of traveling down to Vermont, but it was really tough to reach people during the second pandemic election. So we saw that incumbents definitely had an advantage because people knew their name, and we had to find creative ways to get our name out there. And we use social media extensively. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I'll tell you a little bit more about myself other than election things. I study forestry. I'm almost done my degree. I'm have one class left this semester, but there's no class time. It's just a paper that I'm writing, and I'm actually writing my paper on running for office and comparing the two elections that I ran in. So if I can figure out a way to publish it somehow someday, then some of you could read it, but it's mostly just a deep dive into the intricate details of the differences, and I get credit for it. So that's kind of cool, but I'm almost done my forestry degree. So I'm really passionate about sustainable forestry, natural resources, and my minor was environmental studies and kind of public engagement and how we talk to people about natural resources and how we can kind of create a more sustainable industry that balances all of the needs and wants that we want in our society, and making sure that we have healthy ecosystems and environments for a long time. So I'm really passionate about that. I grew up on a farm, so agriculture is very close to my heart as well, and local agriculture, supporting, you know, small farmers at the farmers market, those kinds of things. I live with my grandma, so intergenerational living and learning is really important to me, and I have definitely learned a lot since living with her during the pandemic that I think that I can bring into the rest of my life, which I think is really important. And talking to people with different points of view, and I find that that's really helpful living up here in Prince George, because I can run into that all the time, and I definitely have gained lots of skills in that area. So yeah, I'm hoping today to inspire youth and those that are young at heart to kind of engage more young people in politics, because it's really hard to get young people engaged. And some tips about social media, some things like that. But as we were mentioning right before we started, I hopefully will be doing like a webinar with the Green Party of Canada that they'll be sharing with all EDAs about social media for beginners, but also people that are experts, I would say. I have quite a large following that I have been growing for the past 2.5, 3 years on social media platforms, and I use that to share policy in really easy to understand ways. And at the very end of this is kind of my contact info with all of my social media. But I'm coming up to 8,000 followers on TikTok, which is it's amazing. I can't even comprehend how many people are watching my videos and commenting and learning about policy. 2,200 on Instagram, something like that, and close to the same on Facebook. So I think that that is a really great avenue we can use to contact young people. So yeah, I'll let Lilah go and kind of share about her experience. I also want to mention I am the co-chair of the BC Greens Youth Council. And so if anyone is on this call between the ages of 14 and 25, or knows someone that is interested in joining the Youth Council, I have our email on the last slide as well, so you can contact us and submit a application if you're interested in kind of joining our youth council and, you know, bringing youth voices to policy making and outreach for the BC Greens. So that's something that I am hopeful that we can recruit or pique interest of some young people on this call as well. So I can talk a little bit more about that later if we have questions, but we have social media accounts and you can kind of see what we're up to and what we do. Just the other day, we had a drug policy Q&A on an Instagram live stream, and lots of people tuned in to learn about BC Greens policy and decriminalization and what that would look like. So making it really accessible for young people to access policy in an accepting way that's not, you know, a convention that can be really hard to get to, expensive, scary because you're in a room with just people you don't know. So yeah, there's lots of really cool things we're doing, and I'm just really happy to be here. And thank you everyone for inviting me and Lilah, and hopefully we can answer some of your questions today and chat a bit more about how to get young people involved in politics. So I'll let Lilah go, and yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. I'm always so inspired by just like how cool you are. Like, I can't believe you've actually run twice. It's like, it's totally unbelievable. So yeah, thank you. And again, just thank you so much everyone for being here. I'm super excited. So yeah, again, my name's Lilah. I'm here on unceded Musqueam, which is in the Squamish territory, also known as Vancouver. And I think the way that I've gotten involved in climate activism and politics is definitely quite different from Mackenzie. So I first got involved in climate activism when I was in grade 9, I think. I'm in grade 11 now. And so one of my friends, or like someone I knew, reached out to me and was like, oh, have you heard of Greta Thunberg in Sweden, who's striking school every Friday to demand climate action? And so I was very passionate about the environment, about like recycling, all that kind of stuff, and really scared and really concerned about the climate crisis and the fact that we were literally in an emergency and it seemed like no one cared or was doing anything about it. And that just seemed crazy to me. But I felt really lonely and I felt like I didn't know what to do because it seemed like no one else in my life really cared about this issue. No adults really cared. No other young people really cared that I knew. And especially world leaders just didn't seem to be taking this seriously at all. And so when I heard about Greta striking school every Friday to demand climate action in Sweden, I was like, that's the kind of action we should be taking, because I don't understand how I can go about my day-to-day life like I've always lived it, knowing that we are in the middle of a crisis. And this was obviously pre-COVID. So, but still, just like knowing that we are in a climate emergency, I can't just like keep going on living my life the same that I do every day. And I think we've seen how true that is with COVID, that we know that we have to really change things in order to tackle an emergency. But back then, I didn't understand why we weren't doing that. And so I got involved in organizing one of the first climate strikes in Vancouver, which is in front of Vancouver City Hall. I think there were probably like 20 people or something there that day. So it was very small. But I remember it was a very, very empowering moment for me, because that was when I realized that there were other young people my age who also cared about climate change and who cared about stopping the climate crisis and were willing to raise their voices and make their voices heard in order to make change. And I think for me as well, stepping up and actually getting involved in organizing an action and doing a speech to city council and stuff like that, that really empowered me to do more, because I felt like my voice was being heard and I was doing something to have an impact on this issue. And then it just kind of like snowballed from there. So there was like this group of us, young people, high school students in Vancouver, who organized all the other climate strikes, including September 27th, which some of you probably heard about. And that was the largest protest in Vancouver's history, which was very cool. And I remember I was seeing that event, and I was just like standing on the stage and I was looking out at this crowd of people that was like bigger. Like I couldn't even see where it started and ended. Like it was just insane. And I was like, we can do this. Like, we can turn this around. This is absolutely possible. But I was also like, oh my gosh, young people are so powerful. Like, young people literally brought millions and millions and millions of people into the streets all across the world to demand climate action. And I really think that young people made it an issue that is at the forefront of people's minds, that was then and still is. And so that just really showed me that when high school students and other young people come together, work together and organize together, we can do anything, absolutely anything. And that really solidified that for me. And so I've continued to stay involved in activism, and I'm now getting more involved in politics and looking at how underrepresented young people are in politics and how that needs to change if we're going to solve the climate crisis, because young people understand that we need climate action, and young people know that we're in an emergency, and young people are going to be the most impacted by the decisions that are made today. And that's why it's so important for youths to get involved in not only activism, but also in who is actually like speaking at Parliament and who's actually representing us, where the decisions are being made. So yeah, I'm super excited to be able to share some more of my experience today with how to get involved in activism, how to get started, because it definitely seemed like a huge step. And I know I was so stuck, like before I got involved in climate striking, I just didn't know what to do. And I was like, how can I as an individual person actually like make an impact on this issue that is so huge? And it was just taking that first step and really pushing myself out of my comfort zone and getting involved in organizing that did it for me. And so I want everyone to be able to have that experience and get involved in this fight, because we are going to need every single person if we're going to win this, especially young people. So yeah, I guess we can move on from there. Okay, so we have a little discussion question, because we don't want this to just be like us talking at you and just like you not really absorbing any of the information and that's it. So we're gonna head into some breakout rooms for like 5 minutes and just talk about why do you think it's important for young people to be involved in politics and activism? And I think Mackenzie and I have definitely given our reasons, but like why, if you're a young person, why do you think it's important for you to be represented? Or for you to be fighting the climate crisis? Or if you're an adult, why do you think it's important for young people to be represented? So I'll stop sharing my screen now, and then I'll just make some breakout rooms quickly. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'll open all the rooms now, and then you should get a little invitation on your screen to join the breakout room, and then we'll just close all the rooms in like 5 minutes or so and bring everybody back.
Okay, we're back. Now we'll wait for everyone to come back. Perfect. Right. People are slowly coming back. So we can kind of chat about some of the things that we learned. We want it to just be really participatory and not just us talking at you the whole time. So I don't think that we need to go over, you know, what we've learned for too long. We'll talk about it for like 5 minutes or so, why it's really important that young people are involved in politics, and then we will go on to the next thing.
Yeah, Mackenzie, maybe do we want to like ask if people want to share any of the ideas that came up in the breakout rooms?
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, so if anyone wants to like share from what you talked about in your room, if there are any really good ideas that came up about why young people should be involved in politics and activism, you can feel free to go ahead. Yes, we can talk about.
I'll just say that, you know, I think we all agree, you know, it's their future. So climate change is going to affect young people the most, so they have the most at stake. But the difficulty is in reaching them, because although they're constantly looking at phones, they're not necessarily being reached with the messages that are most important. It's sort of a, you know, I'm into certain things, and so social media is just going to keep feeding me those things and continue to perpetuate my distraction, basically.
Agreed. I think I'm 60-ish. I have a bunch of students on with me today, and one thing that we all realize is that we're just living in a culture of distraction. It's just so hard to focus to give any length of time to the things that matter, to think on things that matter. And these guys, most of them will be able to vote in the next provincial election, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I found that in our group, we did have Jocelyn in our group, and she was a great spokesperson. But some of us are still pretty shy about talking and going forward. So we needed some tips on how to break out of that situation that we get stuck in sometimes, and talking to people that aren't really interested in what we have to say. So, which will hinder us going further.
Absolutely. Yeah, we will definitely be talking about that today for sure. Okay, I'm wondering, Mackenzie, do you think we want to have a little like intermission now, and then we can move into how to take action?
Yeah,
Okay,
for sure. So we do have Ben, who is a grade 8 student in Vernon, who is taking drum lessons, and we're going to share a video of him playing some music. So if you want to go grab a coffee and come back and leave it so that you can listen, and then we will play some nice music and come back in 5 minutes or so, and we can chat about kind of some solutions to the things that we just discussed.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Ben. That was absolutely amazing. So if everyone wants to just come back to their computers now, and we'll keep on going. And David, that's so amazing. Oh my gosh. Welcome to everyone from SWBA. That's super cool. Okay. So yeah, if everyone wants to just come back on, and I will share our slides again.
Thank you for sharing that, David. If your students are interested in following a Instagram page called Conservation North, they focus on old growth protection in the interior of BC. That's another one that isn't on our list later, but old growth just came up, so I recommend that as well if you are not following them already.
Okay, yeah, so why don't we get into how to take action? So we've talked a lot about kind of our stories, how we got involved in various forms of youth activism, why it's really important. And now we're going to talk about how every single person on this call can take action, especially the young people who are here. So we have kind of like three sectors to talk about. So first is, because I mean, I think there's just really so many ways to get involved in the movement. Like we need, like I said, we need all hands on deck if we are going to have a strong enough force and as much people power as possible to stop the climate crisis. And so there's ways that every single person can get involved. So we've kind of divvied this up into like politics, activism, and then what you can do just on social media. So we'll start with politics, and Mackenzie, you can feel free to take this one.
Sure. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you can do with political parties, but if you are not already connected to the Green Party, which some of you may, most of you probably are because of the nature of this call, but some of you may not be, then choose a party that resonates with your values and you can join the EDA. And an EDA is an electoral district association. So it's a local group of volunteers that kind of keep the party active when there's no election, and they hold meetings and they have an executive with a president usually and a vice president, treasurer, things like that. And they are that connection to the main head office that does Green Party events in your area. And when elections come around, you get to choose the candidate and help with everything political related. So that is a huge thing that you can do. And if you're not sure how to do that, you can go to the Green Party of Canada website. And provincially, those are called RAs, riding associations, and they pretty much do the same thing. So the next thing you can do is volunteer on a campaign. Volunteers are really the crux of campaigns. They're mandatory and needed, and we couldn't do anything without them, whether it's data entry, door knocking, if you enjoy that type of thing, phone canvassing, social media management, all of those things young people can do. And young people are very good at door canvassing if they like it. So if you are someone that is a candidate or helps with campaigns, don't automatically write off young people for door canvassing. They're very good at it when they want to be. Jocelyn is my little sister, and she's done lots of door canvassing for me as well. And lots of her friends have as well, which is super amazing. So those are things that you can do as a young person. There's tons of different volunteer opportunities. And then you can join youth councils. So your local EDA may have its own youth chapter, or there is a provincial youth council, which I mentioned before that I'm co-chair of. And that's where you can really make your voice heard as a young person and help impact that larger policy creation and the larger party outreach that we do. And federally, there's a youth council as well. And usually post-secondary institutions have campus clubs. And if you don't have one, you can start one like I did. I started one at UNBC, the University in Prince George. And it's not super active right now because no one's at school and it's hard to do campus club things when you're not there in person. But we had local politicians from the municipal level come to our meetings and chat with us about politics. It was super laid back. It was just to kind of help break that barrier between young people and politicians that are currently elected. And we found that it was really positive. We had really positive outcomes for people that wanted to chat with councillors or the mayor or regional district directors in a really safe, welcoming space that wasn't, the middle of a city council meeting, putting your hand up with a whole bunch of people staring at you. So those are some things that you can do as well. And if you are bold, you can run for office. So if you have any questions about potentially ever running for office, feel free to message me anytime and I will chat with you about my experience. But running is probably one of the biggest things that you can do. If your area doesn't have a Green Party candidate and there is no option for people to vote Green, there's the option to become a paper candidate as well. And that's not ideal, but if you don't have another option, then at least people have the option to vote Green. Ideally, you can have support and you can have a really great community of people around you, whether that's the EDA or the RA, that will support your run. The federal head office and provincial head offices are super supportive of young candidates. You don't have to worry about getting, getting in the press, because the press wants to talk to young candidates because there's so few of them. So yeah, you can ask us anything about that, but those are some of the ways that you can get involved with party politics and volunteering on campaigns. And that if you've not been involved in politics at all before, that might be, quite the jump from where you're at right now. So we're going to go into some things that are a little bit more I don't know, just easier for people that aren't involved at all. So Lilah can kind of go to the next one and talk about that. But that is some of the stuff that if you really want to make a difference and, you know, find lots of friends that are involved in the same thing and want to join a party and become part of that community, these are some of the best things that you can do. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about activism, which is where a lot of my experience is. So like I talked about in the beginning, I'm pretty involved with the group that's organized all the climate strikes in Vancouver. And so after climate strike organizing, we obviously haven't been able to do that for a while, but we are still very active and have been very active during COVID. Just really like building youth power and trying to make a really safe and welcoming space for young people to be able to take climate action. Because I think, as I was talking about, it can be extremely lonely as a young person to care and like worry a lot about the climate crisis and not really know where to turn and not really know how to actually do anything and make your voice heard. And so I think the entire youth climate strike movement is really focused on making a really welcoming space and making like a place that youth can take action and feel empowered and actually create change. And so obviously this, a lot of you here are from the Lower Mainland, which is totally fine, but we have a national network of climate strike groups, which is called Climate Strike Canada. And like I said, we're not necessarily focusing as much on just climate striking anymore, but various forms of activism. So whether that's organizing for elections or whether that's talking to politicians or doing social media campaigns, we do all sorts of different things depending on what's going on. And so there's a ton of different ways to get involved, no matter what kind of skill set you have, no matter how much capacity you have, how much time you have, there are ways to get involved. So I'll maybe just send to the chat afterwards. And I think I also linked it in a little package that's going to be sent out after. But I know there's the group like Earth Strike Vernon up there, which is like an amazing group. And I definitely know people who organize with them and they're super awesome. And then if you're not part of that group or just are not really sure which group to join, we have groups all across the country, like almost everywhere, and definitely in lots of places in BC. And then if there's not a group in your local area, you can also start a local climate strike group or youth activism group as well. And we have lots of resources for that. So I'll put the form we have for Climate Strike Canada in the chat afterwards. But it's really changed my life being involved in activism, and like you get to meet so many amazing people and do so many cool things. So I would definitely recommend that. But there are also other ways to get involved if that doesn't float your boat. So you can definitely join a green club at your school. I know Mackenzie talked about joining a club at your university, but you can also join clubs in high schools. There's often like a climate or environmental club at your high school. And then if there's not, also you can start one. And I did that this year at my school, and it's not actually that hard. It was pretty fun. So that's an option as well. And then there's also a lot of other environmental organizations you can join as well. So if you are, I would definitely recommend getting involved in like youth climate strike groups, of course. But if that is not what you feel you resonate with, then you can definitely join other environmental organizations too. And there's a ton of different options across BC and Canada. And that'll be included. We're going to send out like a sort of like PDF package of all the different resources that we're talking about now afterwards. And so I put some links for different organizations in there, but there's ones like Dogwood 350 who all kind of work on different things. Another really great organization to get involved with if you want to like kind of bridge between like politics and activism is Dogwood, and they have this Vote 16 campaign, which is focused on youth organizing to lower the voting age. And so that's a super great way to get involved because it's a very specific campaign and they are always looking for more people to help with that. And I'm sure Mackenzie would agree with me that lowering the voting age is a hugely important thing for climate, because if we can have more young people who understand that we're in a climate emergency and need climate action actually voting and having a say in who is elected to represent us, that would make a massive impact. So that's another option to get involved in.
And can I just chime in there that the Greens pretty much lead in all of the youth elections that they do through schools for the people that are too young to vote when they have the youth vote. The Greens are leading in almost every single one. So, the younger people are, the more aware they are of the climate crisis and the more they care about these social issues compared to things like just blanket statements like economics, and so it's really important that we can have diverse views, and that includes young people's views. So the Vote 16 campaign is incredible. And if you know, are trying to convince someone that it's worthwhile, they have some really great information on their website about why it's really important to lower the voting age, and for people that are hesitant or, you know, have questions like, oh, well, they, you know, they would be uneducated and they would just be voting for who their parents tell them to vote for. So there's all these myth busters, and it's really good to share that resource with people that are hesitant to support that campaign, because education would be matched with it in schools, and they're already taught about these things in schools through the student vote. So, you know, we're seeing that young people are educated about politics. We just don't have a voice because no one will give us a seat at the table because we, you know, we can't get elected, or we don't have young people running. So it's such a complex thing, but that's a really good resource to use as well if you're trying to talk to people about the Vote 16 campaign.
Absolutely. Okay, so then we'll move on to our final action item, which is following accounts on social media. So I think Mackenzie can probably talk more to this than me, but I think it's really important to diversify who you follow on social media, because like Kelly was saying when we were sharing back from the breakout rooms, it's so easy to get stuck in this echo chamber of just like hearing and seeing on social media things that reinforce your own views and beliefs. But it's really important to expose yourself to different perspectives, especially we have a lot of Indigenous accounts on this list as well, especially Indigenous people. And like in order to educate yourself and to continue gaining more knowledge about the climate crisis and activism and stuff like that. So yeah, we won't like read off every one of these accounts, but these are all ones that you can follow. And so if you want to just go on your Instagram on your phone right now, go and follow some of these accounts. They're probably like similar usernames on Twitter and Facebook and stuff too. Then that's a really great, super easy thing you can do right away. But Mackenzie, you probably have more to add on like social media and who you follow.
Yeah, sure. I think just social media in general can be a really, really good tool to reach young people, and they're not on Facebook. So, you know, don't focus your energy on Facebook if you are an EDA and you're trying to reach young people. It can be good for some things. Like I personally connect my Instagram to my Facebook because I have people on just my Facebook that don't have any other apps, and then they still get to see some of the things that I'm posting. But all of my connections and relationships with people and organizing is done through Instagram and TikTok. And TikTok is a bit more advanced. So I will be probably doing this with Josh in an upcoming webinar on social media for like beginner to expert level. But if you're interested in like learning ways to reach young people, if you're not a young person yourself, sending them some of these accounts. I mean, really the ideal thing is to get young people like Lilah and myself and Jocelyn on youth councils, and then reach out to other young people, because they're going to be hesitant to listen to someone that is not their age, right? So that's, if we can kind of share this list of some social media accounts. The Tyee is a news source, a lot of Indigenous accounts on here as well. The Young BC Greens, obviously our youth council, and we, you know, share about BC Greens policy. And then we have a whole bunch of MPs and MLAs at the bottom there, which you probably all know their names. But it's good to just be following politicians. And if you're on your phone anyways, which most young people are right now during the pandemic, you know, it's keeping us in a community, because I connect with every single person on my social media accounts, and that is my community of people that I talk to. So if that was taken away from me, it would be detrimental to my mental health. And so it can be really helpful and important during times like the pandemic. We just have to make sure that our view is not just narrow to what we already believe, and that we can diversify our feeds. And you know, I'm not saying go follow right-wing conservative politicians that will make your mental health bad, because that will just rile you up and make you upset. It's meaning, you know, follow Black, Indigenous, people of color activists on social media that are talking about issues that you don't often hear about. And, you know, if you're just really focused on old growth, for example, follow some other accounts that teach you things about decriminalization, or, you know, lowering the voting age, proportional representation, accounts that still align with your values, but just aren't super narrow-minded, so that you can get a broad scope of all of these important issues and how they work together. So ideally we can, you know, get young people to follow accounts like this. This is just a few that came off the top of our head when we were brainstorming this list. There's so many more. But, you know, if you just feel like you don't have time to do this, a really easy way to do this is go to, you know, an account like Wet'suwet'en Checkpoint or Decolonize Myself and go into their follower list, because then it shows who they're following and who is following them, and more so who they're following. And then you can just follow all of those people. And it's a really quick way to diversify your feed really quickly without hand typing in each account. So it would be good to hand type in these accounts, but if you're telling someone to just do it really quickly, you know, pick one of these really good accounts that we've listed here and tell them to follow the accounts that they follow, because pages like Decolonize Myself and Wet'suwet'en Checkpoint are not going to be following accounts that don't align with their values already, right? So then it's kind of just a big community all connected together, and that can be a quick way to do it as well. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful, and we'll be sending out this list after, so that if you don't have time right now to follow these, you can when you have time, but we definitely recommend them. And yeah, following local politicians, if you're a young person, you probably don't, because you're like, I don't want to see politicians on my Instagram. You know, I want my Instagram to be things that I'm interested in. But that's where you can hear about policies they're working on, how to get involved. And, you know, it's not taking up any brain space being on your page. So follow them just so that you can see ever so often what they're working on and the important issues, and how, you know, how politics affects your everyday life, so that you're not apathetic and you can know about current events and things that are going on in the world. So that is a huge important thing that we want to mention to young people, is just follow them so that you can know a little bit about it. And then if you have time to get involved, you can use some of the ideas that we came up with before to kind of take that next step. But this can be the base step that you can take. So Lilah, if you have anything else to add, feel free.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate everything you're saying about kind of helping like the people who are young at heart on this call actually read to youth, because it can definitely be a very daunting thing. But I would 100% agree. I think Instagram is probably your biggest asset for reaching young people, for sure. So making sure to have an active presence on social media, and having an account that like looks appealing and stuff like that is very very crucial, I think, for reaching youth, for sure. So yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. And yeah, just I totally agree with everything you said about diversifying your feed and everything. So yeah, that's really great. All right, I think we can move on to another little discussion in breakout rooms. So we can do this one for another like 5 minutes or so, and then we'll just come back and do a quick Q&A and wrap up. But I think definitely whenever I like run like workshops or do talks or whatever, I always want people to at least do one thing after seeing this call. So like, even if it's literally going and following one single account on that list, just do one single thing. Or if it's like going and searching up where your EDA is, or if it's like going to like find the form to sign up for Climate Strike Canada, whatever your one thing is, just do one thing coming out of this call, and then it will like become another thing and another thing and another thing. But you know, just start with the one. So we'll just do a quick little breakout room session, and we can all just talk about the one thing that we're going to do coming out of this call to take action. And if that's continuing something you're already doing, then that's also super amazing. So just make some breakout rooms. I'll recreate them so you can meet new people. And there we go. Okay. So you should get an invitation to join your room on your screen, and then we'll just come back in like 2-3 minutes. Hey, welcome back, everyone. So it is, oh yeah, I think all the rooms are closed. Okay, cool. So it is almost 3. So we'll just start to wrap up now, but we wanted to open it up if anyone had any last questions, anything that came up today that you want to know more about, any questions you had for us about just, yeah, like really anything related to youth, climate activism, politics, any of that. So if you have a question, you can just maybe like raise your hand, or honestly just unmute. There's not that many people here, so you can just unmute and talk. And I'll just share our contact information while that's going on. You can also stick your questions in the chat too, if that's easier, and then we can answer them that way. I can't see the chat, but if there's, oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, if there's no other questions, that's awesome. We can end pretty much on time, which is great. So yeah, I've just put, we just have our contact info up on this slide. So please, if you have any other questions that you didn't get to ask today, or want any more information about anything, please just feel free to reach out to any of us. Definitely follow me and Mackenzie on social media. And like I said, we'll be sending out a package afterwards with like all of the resources compiled that we talked about today. So make sure to check that out and just do that one thing coming out of this call. Even if it's a very small thing, it's following one account, just do it. And that'll lead to more things you can do. So yeah, Mackenzie, do you wanna any
Sure,
closing?
yeah, and I just did notice the chat. Christine mentioned in there, if any young people are interested in helping with the municipal city Green Party in Burnaby, they're having a by-election right now, so they can contact them. I think that would be a really great opportunity to get involved as well. And she did bring up in our breakout room that, there's also municipal levels of Green Party elected officials. She is one of them. So that's also an avenue that you can take, but only in certain municipalities, like up in where I am, there's no parties connected to municipal politics, that kind of thing. It can hurt you if you are. So yeah, but in some areas, that's definitely a tactic that you can take as well. And there's more than the 2 levels. And yeah, so that was something as well. So if you're interested, you can contact Christine. But we just want to thank everyone for coming today. There was a lot of people and we're super happy about that. And getting young people involved is tough sometimes, but so worth it. And we hope that you can take something out of the call today and use it as an action item to either get someone that is young in your area involved, either just follow one Instagram account to diversify your feed, email us at the Youth Council if you're interested in joining, ages 14 to 25, follow us on social media. And yeah, if you have any other questions, feel free to contact us in any way on social media, and go to the polls if you can. We have a lot of underage people on the call that cannot vote as well. So advocate for lowering the voting age. Huge one. So yeah, thank you for everyone. Yeah, thank you to everyone for being here, and thank you to Heather and team for inviting Lilah and me today. I think it was really great. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too as well. We really appreciate your time in doing this. Awesome.